evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 9th, 2023 meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. Hearings before this commission are quasi-judicial in nature. This is a design review process to determine whether a proposed project is congruous with the special character of the historic district or landmark in which it is located. Decisions of the commission are based on the record of these proceedings. The Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks, and the Secretary of Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation. Evidence submitted to the Commission for review will be part of the record. Appeal of a Commission decision must be submitted to the Wilmington Board of Adjustment within 30 days of the date of the Commission's action. Further appeal must be submitted to Superior Court. Evidence pertaining to an agenda item must be presented during the evidentiary portion of that item. Individuals who wish to address the Commission will be sworn in as witnesses to present material and substantial evidence. The Chair will recognize each witness who wishes to address the Commission during the evidentiary portion. In order to ensure that witness evidence is properly recorded, each individual should come to the podium and clearly state their name and address before addressing the Commission. As a brief reminder, members of the Commission are appointed by and serve at the pleasure of City Council. Our charge is with respect to the protection and preservation of the properties located within the city's designated historic districts. The Commission is held to the requirements of the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks, as well as the applicable North Carolina state law. We are to determine whether exterior changes to a building are congruous with the special character of the city's historic districts. It is important that the Commission deliberate the merits of each request in a manner that provides a record of the basis for our decisions. Please remember that our deliberations should be centered on how a project meets the Wilmington Design Standards and whether the changes are congruous. Commissioners, if you have received or been made aware of any information outside this evidentiary hearing related to any agenda item before the Commission, please recuse yourself from that agenda item. Before the meeting begins, please ensure that all cell phones are in silent mode or turned off. I'd like to introduce the city staff who will be helping us this evening. Ms. Melissa Huffman, our Assistant City Attorney. Ms. Linda Painter, our Planning Director. Ms. Jessica Baldwin, our Historic Preservation Planner. Ms. Megan Basic, our Associate Planner. And Ms. Amy Bradshaw, our Planning Coordinator. This is the administrative portion of the meeting. I am Kathleen Egan, the Commission Chair, and my fellow commissioners will now introduce themselves.
Ross Tomaselli.
Stephen Sulky.
Christopher Yermal.
Ron Wilson.
Allie Watts.
Thank you. We will now swear in those present who wish to present evidence related to any agenda item.
If I could have all staff, applicants, and members of the public please rise. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the Commission have received drafts of the minutes from our last two meetings. If anyone has any corrections or edits to the minutes, could you bring it to our attention now, please? No? Okay, thank you. Then I make a motion to accept the last 2 minutes that we were provided by staff.
I so move.
Second.
All in approval. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll move to the evidentiary portion of the meeting. And we will start with the first agenda item, which is 112 North 8th Street, and we will start with the staff report. All right.
It's not moving. Amy, it's not moving up here. JK. Cool. Okay. My bad, guys. Okay. 112 North 8th Street. The applicant proposes to construct a new two-story, single-unit dwelling. The subject lot is listed as a vacant lot in the Historic District Residential. The subject property is located on the east side of North 8th Street between Chestnut and Princess Streets. The property was originally zoned Historic District HD, which was established on June 13, 1962, and then rezoned to the Historic District Residential on March 28, 1989. The applicant seeks to construct a new two-story single-family dwelling. The proposed dwelling will be 20 feet 6 inches wide by 51 feet deep and include front and rear porches. The lot area is 2,722 and a half square feet, and the proposed dwelling will have a building footprint of 1,045 and a half square feet, which is approximately 38% of the lot. The proposed setbacks would be as follows: the front porch, 5 feet, front facade, 12 feet, the side, north side, 15 feet, 8 and 9/16 inches, the south side, 5 feet, the back facade, 18 feet, and the back porch, 10 feet. The overall height of the dwelling will be approximately 30 feet, 1.5 inches, with a roof slope of 12/7. The foundation will be made of concrete block parged with stucco cement finish and be no more than 20 inches in height. The siding will be hardy board siding with a 6-inch reveal, while all trim is pressure-treated wood. The siding will be painted Santorini blue, and the trim will be painted pure white. The roof will have Certainty Landmark Series shingles in Muir black, and all windows will be Gel Wind V4500 vinyl single-hung 1/1 windows painted to match the trim. The front door will be a Therma-Tru Smooth Star Light 1-panel 3/4 light flush glazed fiberglass door, and the rear door entry door will be an MP door full light sliding patio door. The applicant seeks to install a gravel driveway on the north side of the dwelling, extending the length of the existing brick driveway. The applicant also seeks to install a 6-foot-high board-to-board fence along the rear eastern property line, highlighted here in yellow, as well as at the edge of the house to screen the backyard. The applicant also seeks to remove brush and smaller trees from the interior of the lot, while larger trees along the southern and eastern property lines will remain. So you can see the top 2 photos here show the larger trees that will remain, and then the bottom photo there is just kind of what's there, which is a lot of brush and smaller trees. Staff notes that the 100 block of North 8th Street has contributing properties ranging in height from 1 to 2 stories in varying styles. Staff notes that due to the adjacency of the subject lot to the HD Historic District, it is appropriate to consider the character of nearby contributing buildings in both districts in evaluating this proposed new construction. This slide showcases the street and some of the surrounding properties. Staff would like to add that an additional condition to the project be to provide a protective barrier to the existing trees, and staff would enter tonight's report and presentation in its entirety into tonight's proceedings.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission for staff?
I'm sorry, I may have missed this, but is that tree right there, I think it's a
That one's in the
pecan?
right-of-way, the big one you see here in the main.
Okay, so that would be removed.
That one is not, we're not touching that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks pretty bad shape.
But there's the ones that you see here are on the, are where they're located on the site plan at the top. Those will remain, and then I'm just asking that we provide protective barriers around those trees.
Okay, thank you. We will now give the applicant the opportunity to provide additional evidence or answer questions.
Hi, I'm Libby Beccarino. I reside at 5908 Chester Street. I'm the owner of the property and the developer. A couple of things I'd like to, just a little housekeeping. The front door, if you look at the picture, it's not a three-quarter flush door. It is a two-panel, two-light door. Just want to make that change. A couple other things under the finding facts. 3G, it said the rear porch steps are 6 foot wide. They're really 4 foot wide. I think it's just typos. And on the conditions, number 4, the foundation height is 24 inches. I like a little flexibility in that, between 24 and 30 inches. The house to the left, the front porch is 36 inches. The house to the right, it's 24 inches, the front porch. It's just that when we put the block and the roll lock and the grading of the lot, sometimes it, exceeds 24 inches. So if you could just help me out on that a little bit. Couple other things. We are keeping the existing brick driveway. I'm going to attempt to keep it. I'm not quite sure how old that is. But I like the way it looks. It's already there. We're going to try to silt fence around it, and hopefully it won't get destroyed during construction. Also, there is a sidewalk that abuts it. You go up the driveway is existing, the apron, and then you go onto the sidewalk. That sidewalk is original to the street. So, and you can tell just by the concrete and the way it's poured that it is original. But it has a jagged edge that abuts the brick. And I know that in a normal circumstance, they would make me replace that. But I feel like you have the power to say that I can leave it, and I'd like you to do that. I mean, if we destroy it, then we'll have to replace it. But as it is now, it just looks really cool, historic looking, and it's been there for a very, very long time. I'd like to leave it. Also, and this is probably going to be a thorn in your side, but the rear fence on my site plan is 8 foot, not 6 foot. And I know you have a problem with that, but it's a special situation. The property behind this property is a fourplex, and they've had lots of issues with drug busts and that kind of issues. But 2 houses down at 114, I think, 116 North 8th, they have an 8-foot fence that they got a COA from because of the disturbance behind it. Now, directly behind my house is the parking lot for that fourplex. And it's a lot of comings and goings and that kind of thing. I just think it's a security thing. If you choose to not allow me to do that and just have a 6-foot fence, I'll have to live with that. But I'd hope that you would allow me to have an 8-foot fence there. I also, the design of the house, I built a similar house to this I think it was 221 North 7th Street. And if you ever driven down that block face, I built like 5 different houses on that block face about 10 years ago. But this is a pink house, so it's pretty obvious. And it's a really cool design. My major changes were to the roof lines. I went from a 312 roof to a 712 roof. You can't really see it from the street anyway. And one of the issues that we had was putting an air handler up in there and attic space. But other than that, I think it's a good design, and I think it fits in this block face. We have to the left of this house at 114 is kind of a massive 2-family house, Italian 8, and to the right is a bungalow. So this is kind of a medium-sized house that fits in there, and I think it'll look very attractive. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
That, the pavers, are they pavers, are they set in mortar, or just?
No, they're set in sand. Yeah, I mean, it's in pretty good shape for as long as it's been there, and it's in there. And I'm going to extend the driveway with some gravel, is what I have on my site plan. I just want to distinguish the two surfaces.
I mean, just for your construction flow, and you may want to consider just pulling those things out, setting them aside, put down some geotex fabric and reinstall later on.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I really, first of all, it'll never look like it looks now. It really looks like it's 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. And I'll never achieve that look. And I like that look, so, yeah.
The porch ceiling on this.
But thanks, Chris.
Sure, the section F, number FV2, and I've seen this in a couple places, it says porch ceiling will be 4-inch by 8-inch beadboard painted?
No, it's 4 foot by 8.
4 foot by 8 foot?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought. All right.
The door, up the front door, you said it's 2-panel, 2-light. It's
Yes.
vertical panels and vertical lights, right? Not horizontal?
Yeah, there's a picture of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's more front, okay. Okay.
Excuse me, I have a question for you about the rear fence. I'm looking at the photograph of the neighborhood. I think it says slide 17 of 44, but I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's the opposite side of the street.
That's the other side of the street.
and I was trying to look at the property that you described as being troublesome.
The green, to the left, the bottom photo to the house to the left, that greenhouse.
Yes,
Am I seeing it right? Yeah. Behind that is an 8-foot fence.
okay. Well, I know, but what I'm asking you specifically is, what is in the, you said there were some questionable things in the backyard of the property next door, and that's why you're requesting an 8-foot.
That's right.
But I don't see anything on this photograph to indicate any questionable things back there, of course.
Well, the house faces, I guess that's Chestnut. So the house in question, that is a problem, faces Chestnut. And it's kind of a large house, and the parking, the driveway and the parking lot extends all the way to the rear of my property. And so I don't have a record of it, but my neighbor, the existing neighbor to the right of me, who was very friendly, came out and told me that a couple of years ago they had, and ongoing, had several drug busts there. They went before the commission and got a COA. I don't know if they did or not, but that's what he told me. And they have an 8-foot fence constructed, and it's very nice looking, but it is 2 foot larger than you usually accept. It's not the end of the world for me.
Right,
but,
I understand,
you know,
yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Any others? Thank you for your
Thank you.
time, appreciate it.
Thanks. Amy, can you pull up the overhead shot of the lots? The aerial, maybe we can see what that,
It says 17 of 44, the slide.
It's 806 Chestnut.
Right, okay.
I'm familiar with that house, but
So I think the applicant was talking about behaviors, things occurring at the house behaviorally, not necessarily some issue with the physical
Right.
detail of the property or something to that effect.
Yeah, however, that's tied to the to the tenants who are living in the house at that particular time, and I hate to think that then every house with that backyard is going to come in here and request an 8-foot fence. And then we have a barrier island, with an 8-foot fence through there. And I just, personally, we all know if they have bad tenants, particularly if they're doing drugs, there are ways that those tenants can be moved along. So I'm not saying that it's not a problem, Libby, for you and what you're doing there. I just hate, even though the neighbor may have a 8-foot fence, I'm not sure how all that was approved, but I think everything else you have is fine. It's another nice example of your work in the district, and I just feel like we should just stay within the standard of a 6-foot fence myself, so.
We'll now open the evidentiary portion to members of the public, if anyone would like to come forward with additional information.
Travis Gilbert from the Historic Wilmington Foundation. We have a historic preservation easement on 114 North 8th Street. Just want to say that we endorse this project and support it, and thank you, Libby, for another good piece of work in the district.
Thank you. We'll close the evidentiary portion and move to commissioner deliberation.
Jessica, do we know if there's ever been a COA on an 8-foot fence there on the next property?
I think it's 2 properties down at 116, and I just quickly looked and didn't find anything, but that doesn't mean there's not something there. The things are filed differently
Yeah.
than they
Okay.
used to be.
Yeah, the 6-foot fence seems like it's something we need to stick with. And hope for the best with whatever's going on next door.
Any other comments from commissioners? Someone like to read the motion then?
I move to approve with conditions the request to construct a new 2-story dwelling and to adopt the proposed findings of fact. Details as shown on the drawings, plans, photographs, submittals, and narrative statement contained in the application and supplemental materials and statements made at this meeting are part of this request unless otherwise noted. The motion is based on the evidence presented before us, the application submittals, testimony, staff report, including the findings of fact, and that would be, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Guillermo, Libby had requested about the foundation height, and that needs to be addressed in the condition number 4. And then,
And that would be under the following conditions shall be applied to ensure compliance with the design standards, right? Conditions of a 6-foot fence as well as the variation potential between 24 and 30 inches or thereabouts.
36, I think he requested. 30?
30.
Okay.
The following conditions shall be applied to ensure compliance with the design standards, those set forth in the staff report 1 to 11, and the following conditions of a 6-foot fence in the side and rear, and allowing for a 24 to 30 inch foundation height from grade. The proposed request with conditions does comply with the Wilmington design standards for historic districts and landmarks, is compatible with the materials, features, design, context, and character of the historic building in the historic district in which it is located, and is congruous with site, streetscape, and historic aspects of the historic district residential as a whole. Applicable design standards are 1.6 Secretary of Interior Standards, Standards 3 and 8 through 10, 2.1 Landscaping Standards 3 to 5, 2.2 Public Right-of-Way Standards 1 to 4, 2.3 Fences and Walls Standards 3, 4, 8, 9, 2.4 Walkways, Driveways, and Off-Street Parking Standards 1, 4 through 6, and 9, 3.9 Utilities and Energy Retrofit Standard 7, 4.2 New Construction Infill Standards 1 through 7.
We have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. We will now move to the second agenda item regarding 214 Market Street, changes in materials.
I need to recuse myself from this item.
Okay.
Okay, 214 Market Street. The applicant proposes to modify the approved Major Works 22-32 with new materials and a modification to a boundary wall. The subject property is a neo-colonial revival office building constructed in 1972. The gable end faces Market Street and features divided light windows. The main entry is located on the eastern side of the building, and this facade features 6/9 windows and a hooded entryway with simple square columns. The subject property is located on the south side of Market Street between South 2nd and South 3rd Streets. The subject property is a non-contributing resource in the Commercial Business District Historic District Overlay. Only that which can be seen from the public right-of-way, excluding alleys, is subject to design review. The applicant proposes to modify Major Works 2232 by modifying the materials of the approved ADA ramp. In lieu of brick pavers, they're requesting exposed aggregate concrete. The applicant will also lower the height of a previously approved boundary wall. Originally, the wall was to be 6 feet tall and is now approximately 2 foot 6 inches and will vary slightly with grade. The applicant also seeks to alter the materials of the previously approved dormer additions. Highlighted here in yellow, the applicant proposes to use cement fiber panels with a 1-inch by 4-inch batten joints that will be painted to match the shutters of the existing building. So this shows you the original approved brick dormers and their view from the public right-of-ways, and then the new material on the bottom from view from the public right-of-ways. Staff would like to enter tonight's report and presentation into its entirety for the record of tonight's proceedings.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah,
for staff?
I do. Jessica, the alleyway there, that's a public alleyway, right? Public? That is.
Correct.
Okay, and they're not allowed to block that or anything for this?
No, sir, they're not going to be blocking it. Okay. I think they're using it as part of like staging for construction, but other than that, it will not be blocked.
Right, so it'll still remain as is far as the condition of the pavement?
To best of my knowledge,
Right,
yes.
okay, all right, thank you.
I mean, I think they probably will fix it up a little bit where they're like walking, or they've like dug up for foundational purposes, but yeah.
All right, thank you.
Do you have any idea why they're changing materials?
I believe it is a value engineering effort.
Thank you. We'll now give the applicant an opportunity to provide additional evidence or answer questions.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Nick Johnson. I am one of the owners of Ponysaurus Brewing Company, who are very excited to be opening a restaurant here in Wilmington. Partially correct. It's part of it's an expense. Doing brick that high, the load of that brick was tremendous.
That's what I
and the engineers pleaded with us to not use brick because of the structural load. And all of the beams and such that are required below that. This is the back portion that we're talking about, the change of materials. In the front, having such a large wall just ended up, as we begin to be walking around the space, it seemed to divide everything and make it kind of, it just seemed strange to have such a tall wall, so we wanted to lower the wall down. And the ramp is going up to a wooden deck. And so we felt exposed aggregate would be safer, better grip, and that would also be less expensive. And I'm happy to answer any questions. In terms of the alley, part of the reason that we're having to try and do some value engineering is that we had to spend almost $120,000 replacing the retaining wall that holds the alley back.
Right.
It was failing, and all of the trees and everything were falling in. And so in order to contain that alley at the grade change that it does, it became extraordinarily expensive.
Okay, all right, thank you.
How are you going to move the Japanese maple, heavy machinery? Because you're going to get quite a root ball to get that thing moved.
Yeah, we're going to try and pull that thing out, and I don't know where it will end up. We're hoping to put it in the back,
Okay.
unless you want it.
No, thank you. Don't ruin my yard for that thing.
Give it to Libby and let him plant it in his front yard of his.
I was speaking with Joy from the Bergman Wright House next door, who we've been in communication with through this process, and want to make sure that the view from their windows and stuff is, as pleasant and what they want it to be as it can be. And so we were just talking about this, and I actually, we're also building a place in Raleigh right now, and so I haven't followed as closely all of this as I probably should have, but it was pointed out to me that it was called out by the architects to paint this parapet wall same color as the shutters, which is blue, which seems like that would draw more attention to it than anything else. So we talked about perhaps painting it a color that would match, because you can see it from the Bergman Wright House, would match the roof, since there is pitched roof below it and pitched roof above it, and that would make it sort of kind of disappear into the same color. I wasn't exactly involved in all of the process to remove that wall and put it back, but there was some discussion with the city about trees, and I know that there is some sort of a planting plan for putting trees back along the alley there. And one of the other things we discussed was, making sure that whatever trees were being planted there and whatever agreement we had made already with the city, or that we could make an agreement this evening over this, would have trees that would kind of grow and over time screen that parapet wall as well, so that it would just further make the aesthetic experience from Bergman Wright nicer.
Okay.
You can't paint the brick. I'm just gonna let that, you can't, painted brick is against design standards.
It's called to be board and batten siding in here. We're changing from brick to board and
I
batten.
thought you were talking about the wall.
No. We're talking about the siding that
bad.
we're changing to from brick would be painted. It's a field inside the field of the sloped roof. So there's sloped roof above it there on that top picture and below it.
Yeah.
And so if we painted it the same color as the roof, if you want it to go away, that was what we all thought would be the best. So.
Good, thank you. Anyone? No?
I think this project looks awesome. I'm so excited for it.
Thank you.
And I think that suggestion about painting it to blend in with the roof sounds good. I have and I think on the site plan, it talked about sight lines from the alley also. Lowering that brick wall opened up the sight lines, which
It does,
that makes a lot of sense. So I think all these changes sound good.
Thank you. We're very excited. We should be open at the end of August, so we hope you'll all come dine with us.
Thank you. We will now open the evidentiary portion to members of the public.
Travis Gilbert, Historic Wilmington Foundation. So collaborating with the Bergman Wright House and the property owner, Nick Johnson, we addressed two primary concerns, the tree buffer going up the right-of-way and the board and batten parapet. That was an amendment to the original COA. And HWF believes our standing rests with 14 Market Street, adjoining property. We have a historic preservation easement on that property. Just want to say Nick Johnson has been a pleasure to work with. Historic Wilmington Foundation did support the original conditional rezoning of this property from HD to the CBD overlay within your jurisdiction. We are very much looking forward to this property being revitalized as a space for Ponysaurus Brewing and the pizza joint. Looking forward to us having a slice there, but we appreciate Nick's collaboration just a little bit earlier when we were able to reconnect about this property regarding the tree buffer and the board and batten parapet. Standard 5.1 with commercial buildings, standard 4 says add only decorative elements that are in character with the style and the period of the architecture. And Board and Batten certainly is not within the style, the character of a neo-colonial revival building. But we are sympathetic to the value engineering and the concerns of the engineering department related to the weight of adding a brick parapet wall. So we appreciate Nick's collaboration on a compromise of painting that parapet to match the color of that architectural shingle behind it. Hopefully that will blend in and make that more congruent with the historic site next door that is of such great value to our community. Additionally, Condition 8 of the Certificate of Appropriateness from February 2022 states that no tree shall be removed from the right-of-way. And we do understand that due to some of the trees being invasive and due to the deterioration and the failure of that ballast and brick retaining wall behind that right-of-way, it did cause the removal of those trees. However, we believe it is appropriate for your design standards that whatever agreement the city has about those trees and that vegetative buffer should be a condition within the Certificate of Appropriateness this evening. We still don't have a clear understanding of the agreement pertaining to the restoration of that vegetative buffer, which would additionally help screen that parapet wall that would now be painted a color to match the shingle just behind that view shed. Again, just trying to make this congruent with the historic site next door here in the city of Wilmington. So, I appreciate it, your consideration.
I have a quick question for you. You mentioned that you didn't think that the Board in Batten was appropriate for this particular building. Would you have another suggestion for the applicant?
We would be open to any suggestions that make that parapet wall less visible from the Berglund Wright House.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Travis, wait, Travis. I looked at that wall that's been rebuilt, and I guess my question is, where would you even put a tree at this point? Because you have basically a flat surface coming up to the wall, and then you've got the right-of-way, and you can't go planting a tree there. So where would you put a vegetative barrier?
I believe the vegetative buffer is of utmost importance for that right-of-way, so that would be a obligation of the property owner.
So it would be, okay, so it would be on their lot running along the wall.
It would be an obligation of the property owner.
I'm just trying to picture this. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? Then we will close the evidentiary portion and move to commissioner deliberation. I would like to say I like the new arrangement for the ramp. It looks actually a little bit safer than pulling out into the alleyway. And I'm trying to figure out where you, like Steve, where you could put any trees in the front portion unless they're talking about replacing trees that were in the back portion of the property. I think
Ms. Baldwin, I don't believe that landscaping and trees were a part of this request. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're bound by what the applicant is actually requesting.
Okay.
You've already heard the main part of this request back when they first got their COA.
Then tonight we need to simply move on the change in material and paint color for the parapet and approve the ramp, the change in the ramp.
And the boundary wall.
And the lowering the boundary
yes.
wall. Thank you. Any comments from commissioners?
I think a lot of thought has gone into this, and I think it's a fair compromise. You know, to reiterate Ally, I'm excited to see them down here, and they're clearly putting a lot of time and effort and money and energy into this space. So I think their requests are reasonable. Yeah.
Okay, then I need someone to read a motion.
I'll do it. I move to approve with conditions the request to modify MJW 220232 and to adopt the proposed finding of fact. Details as shown in the drawings, plans, photographs, submittals, and narrative statements contained in the application and submittal materials and statements made at this meeting are a part of the request unless otherwise noted. This motion is based upon the evidence presented before us, the application submittals, testimony, staff reports, including the findings of facts. The following conditions shall be applied to ensure compliance with the design standards, those set forth in the staff report 1 through 3. This proposal request with conditions does comply with the Wilmington Design Standards for historic districts and landmarks, is compatible with the materials, features, designs, context, and character of the historic buildings and the historic district in which it is located, and is congruous with the site, streetscape, and historic aspects of the historic district residential, shouldn't that be over, anyway, as a whole, all applicable design standards.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
You're welcome.
We will now move to item 3 on the agenda, 101 South 7th Street, installation of a new driveway.
Okay, 101 South 7th Street. The applicant proposes to construct a new driveway in the side south yard. The subject property is located on the southeast corner of Dock and South 7th Streets. The main entry faces South 7th Street. The subject property is a contributing resource in the Historic District Residential, and revisions to all facades of the building and site are subject to design review within this district. The Dolgan House, built circa 1928, is a 2-story brick house with a cross-gabled roof, decorative rafter brackets, paired and single 6/1 sash windows that are highlighted by masonry soldier course lintels and feature decorative keystones and chamfered corner blocks. The front facade is 3 bays wide with a half-width front porch, brick columns, and a front entry with multi-pane side lights. The front entry also features a lintel detail matching the window design. A small shed roof dormer with a 6-light window is located above the entrance at the south side of the projecting bay. The northeast corner of the property has a 1-car garage with a hipped roof and remnants of an iron fence atop a portion of a concrete boundary knee wall. The applicant proposes to construct a 10-foot wide by 40-foot long blue slate gravel driveway with a 6-inch by 6-inch wood flush borders. And I noted that the applicant let us know that that actual 40 feet is measured from the existing apron to the end of the driveway. It's not from the property line to the end of the driveway. So it's probably only like 30 feet into the property. The driveway will align with an existing apron in the public right-of-way and be 8 feet from the southern property line. The applicant proposes to remove a 10-foot portion of the existing boundary wall and install a black metal gate. The gate will match the existing fencing. The applicant also seeks to remove 6 trees, and the applicant will plant replacement trees similar to or Italia cypress along the southern property line. Staff notes the historic cistern and large magnolia tree in the side yard will not be removed, and staff would like to enter tonight's report in its entirety to tonight's record.
Any questions for staff?
I kept looking at that. The cistern seems like it's awful far over. I mean,
They're not moving it. They're not touching it at all.
I know, but I mean, where the driveway is going, it's going to be awful close.
I mean, it probably is, but they're not touching it.
There's enough room, okay, because the detailed drawing wasn't that good on the cistern in the driveway, and I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, staff was told that they were not going to touch the cistern, so that's what my that's what I'd go on.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you.
One more question. How
Sure.
big of a cistern underground is this, and can it bear the weight of a vehicle?
I have no idea.
Okay, I've seen some of these things, and they're not that great, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Don't want to lose a car. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in archaeological
Sinkhole.
cisterns, so I can't really answer that question.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, we will give the applicant an opportunity to provide additional evidence or answer questions, and
Good evening, I'm Merritt Hahn. I live at 101 South 7th Street, and we are proposing to install a driveway. We are not moving or disturbing the cistern as it sits. We would probably be about 1 foot or so between the driveway and the cistern. It could be 2 feet, just kind of depends. Yes.
Do you know the underground width of this cistern? Because I went on my house, and it's about 12 to 14 feet wide.
I don't know.
The lid is one thing, but the cistern is something different. All right, just don't buy a Hummer. Okay.
No, we don't plan to buy a Hummer. And we are open to suggestions on the driveway. We have applied for the permit as gravel initially. We are happy to install concrete. Or if you prefer brick pavers in one of the acceptable designs that I've seen around the area, we're happy to do that. We have worked with the city of Wilmington to get a permit for that apron portion that's in the right-of-way. So we have that, but we, obviously haven't done anything with that yet. We are proposing to remove trees. There is one tree that does not, the full tree does not sit in the driveway, but the root bed of it does. And we will, like Jessica said, plant back trees. Again, we're open to suggestion. If there are particular trees that you prefer, we're happy to do that. We would like to landscape the area. We are also talking about installing a black metal gate. We had proposed sliding, but we are also happy to do a double in-swing gate, that locks, hinges and locks.
Is that a powered gate?
If it is a sliding gate, it would be.
Okay.
Yes, sir, but.
Okay. Are you going to disturb, because you do have the curb apron there, the historic one, you're not tearing that up and replacing it, are you?
No, we would just be installing concrete from
there
that
on.
point to the existing city sidewalk.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
We'll now open the evidentiary portion to members of the public.
How you doing? My name is Brian Hampton, B-R-Y-A-N. I live at 621 Dock Street. My concerns seem to have already been addressed or already on y'all's radar. One was the paperwork I found seemed to lack detail as far as the gate was concerned. Sounds like it's gonna be the same style and height that's already been approved. The second was the cistern, and there's a note saying that they're gonna remove the pad around it, or the concrete, I guess, around it. And I was wondering if that's going to cause an issue as far as stability or destabilize the cistern and possibly cause it to collapse, which I believe is quite a historic aspect to the property. So that seems to be on your radar.
Well, we're tasked with the congruity of the look of the project, not the engineering.
Okay.
I just know how some of these cisterns have weathered over time, and I think perhaps they just should inspect their cistern or know what's underneath where they're going to put vehicles. That's not my only concern. I mean, it's more an issue for them not to lose one of their cars.
Okay, right. Well, it seemed like removing the slab from around the cistern would cause an issue in its stability and possibly cause it to collapse on itself. That was a concern, so, of mine. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will close the evidentiary portion and move to commissioner deliberation.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. If it's gravel, is the gravel of a type that will be pervious? Is that a condition?
It can be added as a condition. It is currently not a condition. They
Well-
just said blue slate gravel.
Slate, okay, all right.
I think if we're not sure what's under there, gravel might be the best bet. Any other comments or thoughts?
I like the, the kind of impermanence of this design. Chances are, at some point in the future, this is going to be an actual home. There'll be a home constructed here, so what's nice is that whether it's gravel or pavers, that can be removed. The trees getting moved off, relocated, not relocated, but new trees along the side would allow for that. And even that boundary wall could be rebuilt in the future with some ease. So, all of this, it's not permanent, and it can be undone and put a house there at some point in the future. So this doesn't seem, I would probably recommend that they maybe consider a little concrete, kind of a runway if the gates slide open, or otherwise I don't know functionally how that's going to work. But otherwise, everything seems reasonable to me.
My neighbor down the street has a slide gate, and it has to have a concrete runway because it rolls.
Right.
Then I think we are ready to go to a motion. The gate height, one of the conditions is that the gate height and design will be submitted through administrative bypass. So they can help, the staff can help with that. So I think we're ready for a motion. I don't think there were any other problems with it.
Okay, I'll move to approve with conditions the request to install a new driveway and to adopt the proposed findings of fact. Details as shown in the drawings, plans, photographs, submittals, and narrative statement contained in the application and supplemental materials and statements made at this meeting are a part of this request unless otherwise noted. The motion is based on the evidence presented before us, the application submittals, testimony, staff report, including the findings of fact. The following conditions shall be applied to ensure compliance with the design standards, those set forth in the staff report 1 through 6, and applicant will work with the staff on the height and design of the gate to match existing metal fencing. The proposed request with condition does comply with the Wilmington Design Standards for historic districts and landmarks, is compatible with the materials, features, design, context, and character of the historic building and the historic district in which it is located, and is congruous with the site, streetscape, and historic aspects of the historic district residential as a whole. Applicable design standards 1.6, Secretary of the Interior Standards 1 through 5 and 8. 2.1, Landscaping Standards 1 and 3-6. 2.2, Public Right-of-Way Standards 1, 2, 7, and 8. 2.3, Fences and Walls Standards 1 through 4, 6, 8, and 9. 2.4, Walkways, Driveways, and Off-Street Parking Standards 1 through 10.
May I please have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, so the motion passes. We're going to take a 10-minute break. number 4 on the agenda, 520 North 15th Street.
The applicant proposes to construct a rear addition and replace windows in the existing structure. The subject property is located on the west side of North 15th Street between Oakdale Cemetery and Campbell Street. The front facade faces North 15th Street. The subject property is a non-contributing resource in the Carolina Heights Winnetka Terrace Historic District overlay. Only that which can be seen from the public right-of-way, excluding alleys, is subject to design review. The applicant proposes to construct a 35-foot, 3-inch wide by 9 feet deep rear addition. The addition will be constructed on grade with Lee brick in Halifax and a EPDM rubber roof membrane system in black. The addition will have 1 new exterior hollow metal door, 1 new window, and will not exceed the height of the existing structure. The applicant proposes to install 8 new windows in the existing structure. The windows will match the new window on the addition. The windows will be Marvin G2 6/6 aluminum clad with simulated divided lights with spacer bars in the color white. Staff notes that only alterations to the front facade of the non-contributing structure will be the replacement windows. Staff would like to enter the staff report in its entirety in the entirety of the record of tonight's proceedings at this time.
Are there any questions for Megan?
I have one. What material are the current 6/6s?
They are wood, I believe. Or the applicant will be able to tell you when it's his turn to speak.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then we will ask the applicant to come forward and answer any questions or provide additional information.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is John Wessel. My address is 23 Shore Drive, Wrightsville Beach, and I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Oakdale Cemetery. This is Robert Walkirk, who is with the firm Walkirk and Saunders, who are helping us with this project, and he can answer your question about the windows because I can't.
Okay.
The current windows are double insulated, vinyl clad.
They are. They don't look like they're wood. Okay. That's
Okay.
Also here with us tonight is Eric Cozen, who is the cemetery superintendent. We really don't have anything to add to the staff report. We believe it's comprehensive and addresses the issues to be presented. We do have with us tonight an example of the brick we intend to add to the new portion, the asphalt shingles that will replace the existing asphalt shingles, and we have an example of the windows we intend to replace, assuming that you approve the requested COA. We'll be glad to answer any questions, and we would respectfully request that you approve the COA for us.
I have a question for you about the brick. The Halifax brick, I think we have to take your word for it that it's a match. You know, from the photograph that we have from Lee Brick in Sanford, this Halifax board of this modular brick, it doesn't seem to have any reds in it like your building appears to have.
I can show you the example we have, but I don't have any of the brick that's on the current building to compare.
I assume you held this board up to that, and it's a good match.
And you know, there's going to be a mortar match too. It's,
right.
Once we get going, Jeff Grimes from Palmetto, he'll be there to, he'll be there to, make sure we're dead match.
okay.
I had one other question. You're putting EPDM up, you're putting a rubber roof up because of the pitch, the lack of pitch, right? But why don't you just raise the ridge of the addition higher to allow for a steeper slope to have asphalt shingles?
Well, we didn't want to raise it so high that we went over the existing ridge line. So
That's pretty low.
felt like that would be the best approach.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now open the evidentiary portion to members of the public who might have additional evidence or provide other information. We'll close the evidentiary portion then and move to commissioner deliberation.
Anybody got it? Oh. What can I say? It's a nice cemetery. I'm dying to go over there. I mean, I'm good.
I could have a volunteer then to make a motion.
I'll make, after that, I'll make one. Let's see. I'm all right, yeah. I move to approve with conditions the request to reconstruct, to construct an addition and to adopt the proposed findings of fact. Details are shown on the drawings, plans, photographs, submittals, and narrative statements contained in the application and submittal materials, and statements made at this meeting are a part of the request and otherwise noted. The motion is based on the evidence presented before us, the application submittals, testimony, staff reports, including the findings of facts. The following conditions shall be applied to ensure compliance with the design standards so set forth staff report 1 through 6. The proposed request for conditions does comply with the Wilmington design standards for historic districts and landmarks, is compatible with the materials, features, design, context, and character of the historic buildings and the historic district in which it is located, and is congruous with the site, streetscape, and historic aspects of the historic residential as a whole. All applicable design standards apply.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so the motion passes. The next item on the agenda then is number 5. It's 714 Walnut Street.
The applicant proposes to construct a rear addition. The subject property is located on the south side of Walnut Street between North 7th and McRae Streets. The subject property is non-contributing resource in the Historic District residential. Provisions to all facades of a building and the site are subject to design review in this district. 714 Walnut Street, built circa 1890, is a one-story, 3-bay wide cottage with a gable roof, clapboard siding, and 1/1 sash windows. The front facade features a central entry and shed-roofed porch supported by turned columns with simple balustrades and side entry steps. A small perpendicular wing extends from the southern side of the cottage with a cross-gable roof and an infilled east-facing porch with a shed roof. There is a rear entry with an entry hood supported by turned columns and balustrades to match the front porch. The applicant proposes to construct a 21-foot wide, 15-foot deep rear addition that will be approximately 334 square feet. The addition will be attached to the existing dwelling by a 4-foot, 7-inch wide and 4-foot deep hallway with an exterior entrance. The addition will align with the west side of the existing dwelling and be inset approximately 4 feet and 6 inches from the east side of the existing dwelling. The addition will be set back from the south property line by 9 feet and 7 inches, the west property line by 2 feet and 7 inches, and the east property line by 4 feet and 6 inches. The proposed addition will have a concrete block foundation with a parged cement stucco coating and will match the height of the existing dwelling. The addition will be no taller than the existing dwelling and have a 12/10 roof slope. All siding will be hardy board with reveals to match the existing dwellings. The addition's roof will have an IKO Cambridge architectural shingles in dual gray to match the existing roof. All 5 windows shall be Simonton Contractor Series vinyl 1/1 sash windows and match the existing in size and color. The west-facing entryway shall have a wind door 2W2H, 3/4 light and panel door, and a concrete stoop. Staff would like to enter a report in its entirety in the record of tonight's proceedings at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
I see it was built in 1890, but what makes it non-contributing at this point? Is it some of the chipping away at the original fabric, I guess?
At the time it was surveyed, we believe this is what it looked like. It has since been reconstructed, but it was done so without a COA at an unknown date.
And there's currently wood siding, right? There's wood siding on the house now, correct?
I believe it is wood, yes.
Okay.
I did not touch it on the site visit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. If the applicant is here, they might be able to help us with further information or answer questions.
Yeah, I'm Christian Peterson. I live at 714 Walnut Street.
Can you put your mic up?
Christian Peterson. I live at 714 Walnut Street. That's, yeah, I'm the one doing the addition. Hello.
Okay. Can you tell us what the siding is on the main part of the house?
It's wood. It's actually, it's in need of some repair as well. There's a lot of rot going on. I'm going to hopefully do some additional siding repair. Hopefully, I don't know if I need to replace everything, but there's definitely some holes and some rotten window sills and siding. And also, I've owned it for 2 years now, but there is some hardy replace siding. Hardy plank that was patched on there. I didn't do it, but this is the first thing I'm going to be doing to the house. But yeah, it's still wood.
Okay. Any commissioners have any questions? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We will now open the evidentiary portion to members of the public. Then we will close the evidentiary portion and go to commissioner deliberation.
I think the way that it's kind of has the little recess in between the old and the new is intentional and kind of differentiates it the way that we like to see what's new and what's old. I think that's nice. And, and like if it were removed, the idea that if it were removed, it would go back to kind of the essential form. Those parts of the standards, I think, are reflected in this design.
Any other comments?
I mean, the house has been so redone already, it's, I think the addition is the least that has happened to it, really.
All right, if I could have a motion then?
I move to approve with conditions the request to construct an addition and to adopt the proposed finding of fact. Details as shown on the drawings, plans, photographs, submittals, and narrative statement contained in the application and supplemental materials and statements made at this meeting are part of this request unless otherwise noted. This motion is based on the evidence presented before us, the applicable submittals, testimony, staff report, including the findings of fact. The following conditions shall be applied to ensure compliance with the design standards, those set forth in the staff report 1 through 6. The proposed request with conditions does comply with the Wilmington design standards for historic districts and landmarks, is compatible with the materials, features, design, context, and character of the historic building and the historic district in which it is located, and it is congruous with the site, streetscape, and historic aspects of the historic district residential as a whole. all applicable design standards.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so the motion carries. Our last item on the agenda is 19 North 8th Street, a local landmark designation.
All right. 19 North 8th Street was submitted for designation as a local landmark by Giblin Lodge No. 2 and Historic Wilmington Foundation. The site consists of one lot, 19 North 8th Street, totaling approximately .117 of an acre, and the structure was built between 1871 and 1873, with alterations dating between 1898, 1904, and again in 1939. The lodge is located in the National Register of Historic Places Wilmington Historic District. The Wilmington Historic District incorporates the large historic core of Wilmington. Wilmington, like many cities of the colonial era, was dependent upon the Cape Fear River. Incorporated in 1739, the city encompassed the eastern edge of the river. By 1849, due to population growth, major development increased the city's boundary north to Red Cross Street and 8 blocks east of Fifth Avenue. The population continued to grow well into the 19th century, being home to 20,000 people by 1890. The population was diverse both racially and socially economically, and through 1900, about half of the population was black, both free and enslaved. These maps here depict the boundary growth through 1911. The Masons of Giblin Lodge purchased the lot in 1871 from Francis and Lydia Kirchner. Construction began quickly after, and by November 17, 1871, the cornerstone was laid. This slide shows the history of Giblin Lodge as a structure. It's in the first map of 1893. You can see the property is filled with additional structures, and the Masonic Lodge is noted on the 3rd floor. You'll notice the change in businesses through the next years, as well as material changes that are indicated by the color of the structures. It is not completely clear how the building's material changed from what the map describes as fireproof special to full masonry, but sometime between 1898 and 1904, a change occurred. We also know that the alterations occurred post-1915 and the introduction of retail space on the 1st floor. Giblin Lodge is the second oldest Prince Hall Masonic Lodge in North Carolina and the oldest in Wilmington. The lodge represents the wealth, agency, independence, and resiliency of the black population of Wilmington prior to the Civil War and well through the 21st century. The early years of the lodge were just the start to its multi-purpose life. The building became a polling place for the 3rd Ward. Exhibitions and festivals were also held at the lodge during its early years. In 1875, the lodge served as the location for the first colored industrial fair in the state and perhaps the nation. The fair promoted and showcased black farmers, craftspeople, teachers, and many students. The exhibition was such a success that it continued for years to follow until it grew so large that it was moved to the state capitol in Raleigh. The lodge continued to serve as a meeting place for the Masons on the 3rd floor, with the 3rd floor dedicated to the ceremonies and practices of the Masonic organization. As the political climate of North Carolina changed throughout the 19th century, Giblin Lodge was a safe haven for black politicians who were often subject of hostile racial attacks. As black politicians began to gain power in North Carolina, Giblin Lodge became a target of the white supremacy campaign spreading in Wilmington. That campaign led to the 1898 massacre and coup that devastated the black population of Wilmington, with many leaving their homes in the city for safer destinations and those who remained facing financial ruin. As a result, by 1900, Giblin Lodge saw a significant decline in membership, and remaining members were less financially able to support the lodge. Unable to maintain their property, the members sold a portion of the lodge. Racist political and journalistic tactics throughout the 20th century left Giblin Lodge out of the public eye and forced the black community and Masons to lose social, economic, and political standing. The segregation of schools, libraries, and many municipal facilities due to Jim Crow-era laws forced blacks to find resources and develop their own means of learning, gathering, and socializing. In 1926, a grassroots organization was created to establish the Black Public Library, and in June of the same year, a library officially opened on the second floor of Giblin Lodge. The library continually operated out of Giblin Lodge for the next 20 years. Today, Giblin Lodge Masons still hold meetings at 19 North 8th Street, and in 2020, the lodge and its members celebrated its 150th anniversary. A community task force today seeks to see it rehabilitated to further meet the needs of its surrounding community. Giblin Lodge stands as a symbol of the deep-rooted ancestry of Wilmington and its black population. The lodge, since its inception, has been a place of gathering, idea sharing, and community building. The structure, as well as the people that build it and the people that continue to maintain it, is a powerful physical reminder of the resiliency, agency, and support of a community that has and continues to strive for an equal society. Historic Preservation staff notes that the designation of 19 North 8th Street Giblin Lodge aligns with the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan as a place that is historic resource to the built environment of Wilmington. Staff notes that the property meets the criteria for designation under Section 2 of the City of Wilmington's local landmark ordinance by age, as the dwelling is 152 years old. Also under Section 2, the property has special significance for its contributions to the black population of Wilmington, which has been felt since its completion in 1873. The lodge is multifaceted, used not only for Masonic practices, but also as a gathering space, an exhibition center, a public market, and a public library, give the building special significance to the diverse history of the city of Wilmington. Lastly, staff notes that the integrity of the building, while alterations have occurred in the structure and its design, and especially the use of its third floor, have remained intact and aligned with the National Register description listing. Staff strongly supports the designation of 19 North 8th Street Giblin Lodge as a local landmark.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Do we have an applicant present to provide additional information?
We actually had a task force meeting today, so we are saving the parade for city council. But they exhausted themselves earlier this afternoon. We meet once a month. This task force has blossomed into something that represents way more than just the preservation of a lodge. This is a community, both black and white, coming together, sitting around a table, discussing not only how to rehabilitate this building, but to rehabilitate, I think, race relations in the city through the vehicle of this building. There's been some pretty powerful and passionate conversations around that table since May of 2020, and it's been an honor to be a part of it. I just, for the record, I don't think we're going to get this much time at City Council. I just want to thank a few people. Earl Armstrong, who's the most worshipful master of Giblin Lodge currently, and all of his brothers that still practice their craft here at Giblin Lodge, and the Sisters of the Eastern Star, Karen Gordon, who's the leader of the Eastern Stars, still use this building. Daniel Thompson, who is the most worshipful Grand Master, is the Grand Master of Prince Hall Masons across the entirety of North Carolina. He's a native of Fayetteville and has been an instrumental part in this collaboration. Y'all are probably familiar, there's a new roof on this building, and that was made possible through Residents Old Wilmington, the Marion Stedman Covington Foundation, the North Carolina Community Foundation, Patriot Roofing and Exteriors, E.B. Pancook, who was a structural engineer who worked on the project, and Jeff Adolphson from State Historic Preservation Office. There's going to be many a COA in our future, so this local landmark application and designation is truly the Historic Wilmington Foundation and Giblin Lodge asking you, the Historic Preservation Commission, to join us in this effort. Going forward, all exterior changes will have to receive a COA. So we're inviting you to join this process to ensure that the rehabilitation of this lodge retains its integrity. In terms of the application before you, there are two people I want to thank specifically. McCallie Givens, who is a collections registrar up in Norfolk, Virginia, former resident of Wilmington, who worked tirelessly for this application. And Dr. William Moore, who would have thought that one of the nation's leading experts on Masonic lodges was a former professor at UNCW and now teaches at Boston College. Those two individuals are the reason this application is before you today, along with the collaboration of Isabel Shepard at Historic Wilmington Foundation, and I must say Jessica Baldwin, who's been entirely supportive of this process since coming on board to city staff, and we thank her support. I also want to thank Susan Love Lewis. We knew that once word got out, somebody would have a photograph of this building in a shoebox under some bed somewhere. And after reading about the project through Wilmington Magazine, Susan Love Lewis gave us a call and said, I think there's a photo somewhere of when my father owned a dry cleaner that leased out the first floor. So underneath her bed, we went at Wrightsville Beach to find which shoebox that photograph was in, and gives us an indication that this was, once upon a time, not covered in stucco. So I think the application before you lays out clearly the significance, the historic significance of this site, and as Jessica discussed in her staff presentation, the integrity that has remained at this site. And we're looking forward to ushering this through City Council, hopefully in April, and inviting you along this journey to rehabilitate this lodge so it continues to represent a font of the expression of Black history and culture here in the great city of Wilmington, North Carolina. Thank you.
Travis, I'm sorry, I have a quick question for you. I think didn't mean to scare you there.
I'm not used to being an applicant, so
yeah.
I guess I should stand up here.
Okay, so yeah, it's a very wonderful project, and I think it's a great community building effort for everyone. You mentioned, excuse me, several people, the stakeholders in the rehabilitation and the process that you're setting up. How is the financing going to work for all of this? I mean, are the different parties working with grants and the Knights of Giblin? I mean, do they have a part in the fundraising, or is it just state grants? Or I mean, it seems like it's going to be a very costly project over the time frame. So
we have a probable cost estimate that was put together by E.B. Pancook, and he's one of the best structural engineers for historic preservation here in Wilmington. Currently, the funding for the rehabilitation has been entirely grant funded. The Historic Wilmington Foundation has a significant in-kind donation through staff time of Isabel Shepard to write grants for the lodge's behalf. And in fact, this application is before you, I think a little earlier than expected, thanks to Jessica's great sense of urgency, because the National Trust for Historic Preservation has asked us to put this on a fast track for two reasons. One being this is a finalist for America's 11 Most Endangered Places. Last year we were a finalist. We didn't receive the final 11. This year we're at the same place again. They said, please usher this local landmark application through. That might make you a little more competitive. And then additionally, we heard back just yesterday that the National Trust for Historic Preservation's African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund has named us a finalist for those grant monies. In 2021, that same fund provided $150,000 to the King Solomon Lodge #1 up in New Bern, who has a very similar partnership with the New Bern Preservation Foundation to rehabilitate their Masonic lodge. So there is a case study and a precedent for that funding. So back to answer your question, it is completely grant funded, and the brothers and sisters, the property owners of Gibbon Lodge are discussing ways, tactics, uses of the building that would fund its continued maintenance and preservation over time. Those plans are not solidified. We are essentially trying to mothball the building according to historic preservation practices currently to stop the bleeding, if you will, that will give the brothers and the sisters, the property owners, the time to determine the most appropriate use for this facility that will continue its preservation and its maintenance over time. But the historical record does show us that often that has been maintained through the commercial use of that first floor, which was that commercial use of the first floor deteriorated due to the effects of 1898 and the effects of urban renewal. That dry cleaner business left around 49, 50. And that ushers in the urban renewal time. So there's significant consequential economic effects on this building due to racist policies in our community, and also misguided efforts at historic preservation during the urban renewal era.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
I just want to correct Travis real quick that Dr. William Moore is esteemed faculty member at Boston University, not Boston College. Huge difference.
Boom.
Yes.
Boom. We will now open the evidentiary portion to members of the public. Then we will close the evidentiary portion and go to commissioner deliberation. We have a motion.
I move to approve with conditions the request to recommend the designation as a local historic landmark to help protect and document its historic integrity and the cultural significance for the property located at 19 North 8th Street. The structure is 152 years old. The property exemplifies special historical and cultural heritage through its contributions to the black population of Wilmington, which has been felt since its construction in 1873. The lodge's multifaceted use, not only for the Masonic practices, but also as a gathering space, an exposition center, public market, and a public library, give the building special significance to the diverse history of the city of Wilmington. The commission finds that the property's associated history and exterior features along are sufficient citywide value that the landmark designation without interior review will contribute substantially to the goals of pleasure, education, and cultural enrichment to the citizens of Wilmington and the public at large. This motion is based on the application submittals recommendations of the State Historic Preservation Office and the age, significance, and integrity of the property.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The meeting is now adjourned. Oh, do you want to bring anything up? I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Staff has accepted a proposal for the design standards update, and we will be in contact as that moves forward, letting everybody know what's going on. But that's as far as we've gotten at this point. Thanks.
And just a couple of other updates. So as you may recall, a few months ago, you had a demolition application in front of you where you were in the position of essentially having to recommend approval despite the contrary nature of that to what you do, but given state statutes, you really didn't have any choice. Staff is taking proposed amendments to the Planning Commission in April, that will move that from a public hearing before you to a bypass application for any demolition that essentially you have no discretion on under state statute. We will be also proposing to take solar panels under certain criteria, again, because there are statutory provisions that say those have to be approved. So that proposal is going to the Planning Commission in April and hopefully the City Council in May. So we just wanted to let you know as they do affect historic districts.
Is there any news on that property? Still just the clock is ticking on 365?
The staff's not been alerted to any news.
Okay, thank you.
Travis is supposed to be working with him.
Okay, I think now we can, now we can move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, or adjourn.